Hey, it's Stuart. So wills, hey? Do you need one? And what do you really need to know about them? So the first thing is you definitely need a will. Even if it's a really simple one, you do need one because dying without a will is called dying intestate, and it can make it very, very difficult for the people that you leave behind. A lot more difficult than it needs to be. There's a couple of challenges with it. Is that the court will then decide where your assets or who your assets go to, and if you want to leave assets to distant family members, cousins and so forth, or friends, that's not going to happen unless you have a will. And secondly, who administers your will, the court will need to decide that. And look, if you've got say your mother and father are still around, but your father would be much better off or in a much better position to be the administrator to your will, but the court then decides that your mum has to do it, maybe that's just not the most appropriate thing to occur, and you create stress and anxiety and issues at a time when you probably don't necessarily need to do that. So if you don't have any dependents, you don't have much in the way of assets, if you're just sort of starting out in life, you don't have a spouse, and you've got no one that you want to look after in particular upon your passing, then I'd argue you probably need a very simple will, and probably just getting a will kit at the post office or something online will probably be sufficient. However, if you fall outside that, so if you have a spouse, if you have children particularly, if you have assets, if you have people you want to look after, if there's a certain person in your family that's going to be better off to be your executor than others, then that's when it's important to get a will. A will typically cost anywhere from, say, $1,000 to $5,000, and I think most wills would cost less than $2,000. So don't necessarily go out and try and find the cheapest. You want an experienced estate planning and family planning lawyer to put that together, but you also don't need to go out and pay for the most expensive will either. There's lots of things that you need to consider in terms of who's going to be your executor, who in your family has the nous and understanding and the fortitude to act in that capacity in the event of your passing. If you've got children, you're going to need to deal with guardianship. If you've got particular assets that you want to go to particular people, you're going to need to deal with that. If you've got children that are under age of 18, you need to then decide at what age do they then take control of the estate. Sometimes using a testamentary trust, you can talk to your solicitor about that. A testamentary trust tends to be a very good feature in a will that can give your estate a lot of tax planning and just practical planning benefits. The other thing that you need to think about putting together is a power of attorney. You can have legal and medical powers of attorney. They can be restricted or enduring. Essentially what that means that if you're incapacitated or you're not in Australia and decisions need to be made, that you can appoint an agent to make those decisions on your behalf. So normally spouses would hold power of attorneys for each other. And in the event that we're older and we get sick and we're not able to make financial or even medical decisions, then we know our other spouse has the capacity to act on our behalf and obviously in our best interests. So they're the reasons why you need to put a will together. They're not very difficult to do. They're not very costly. And if you find a good estate planning lawyer, they'll be able to help you put something together that doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg, but then make sure that not only your assets are protected, but you make it as easy as possible for the people that you leave behind in what will probably be a very difficult situation. So on a much lighter note, if you want to learn more about investing, grab my book Investopoly. It'll help you master the game of building wealth. Until next time, bye for now.